So hello everyone and welcome to my review of Garuda, our newest gore-based Warframe that was just released with the Fortuna update. Now first things first, you get the blueprint for Garuda by finishing the Voxolaris quest, and you get her other parts from bounties. So the first bounty can give you Garuda chassis, the second one can give you Garuda systems, and the third one can give you Garuda neuroptics. When it comes to beefiness, Garuda sits somewhere in the middle. She's not overly squishy, but she's not extremely tanky either. She starts at 100 health and shields, which will both go up to 300 at rank 30, 300 armor, 120 energy, which goes up to 270 at rank 30, sprint speed of 1, which is average, and she has a dash and D polarity with a V polarity in the aura slot. Now Garuda, on top of getting a far bigger energy reserve as she levels up than other Warframes, also deals up to 100% additional damage with abilities and weapons based on how much health she's missing. And she can also equip the claws you can see on her forearms as a full-on claw melee weapon that's modded via the arsenal. However, this only works if you don't have a melee weapon equipped. If you equip another melee weapon onto Garuda and you go into a mission, you will lose access to the claws. And as far as her ability kit is concerned, she's actually quite well rounded. She has a tiny bit of crowd control, some damage, some defense, and even a little bit of utility. So Garuda's first ability is called Dread Mirror, where she will leap into the air and pounce an enemy that's within 30 meters and kill the enemy if it was below 35% health, and at the same time she will drain the enemy's life force and create a Dread Mirror and a Dread Heart that will be hovering above the mirror. The pounce can also open the enemies up for a ground finisher, though it doesn't happen every time. Now the mirror will last for 20 seconds and it's oriented based on your camera, not the way your Warframe is facing. The mirror will block any damage that's coming towards you and store 2 times that damage into the Dread Heart, which can then be charged by holding the first button, which will use your energy to charge the damage further, and throw the heart to do a pretty substantial amount of damage in a 10-meter radius. Now the initial pounce will also do a little bit of damage to the target enemy and store 10% of that enemy's health into the Dread Heart. The ability is also recastable as long as you don't hold the ability button down, which would throw the heart, and that way you can store a little bit of extra damage into the Dread Heart, do a little bit of damage to the enemies, but most importantly refresh the duration of the mirror. Also, the duration of the Dread Heart seems to be infinite, so it's not linked to the mirror, so even if the mirror runs out you will still keep the heart. But it is linked the other way around, so if you throw the heart you will lose the mirror. Now the range at which you can pounce enemies as well as the explosion radius when you throw the heart are both affected by power range. The damage absorption multiplier on the mirror is affected by power strength, so the more power strength you have, the faster the enemies are going to charge your heart by shooting or otherwise damaging your mirror. Then the duration of the mirror is of course affected by power duration, and finally the initial cost of the ability as well as the rate at which the ability drains energy when you're charging the heart are both affected by power efficiency. Garuda's second ability is called Blood Altar, where she will charge an enemy within 30 meters, impale them onto a bunch of talents and create a Blood Altar for 20 seconds. The impaled enemy will lose 1% of its maximum life every second and create an aura that has a radius of 6 meters and heals Garuda and her allies for 25% of their missing health every second. You can have a maximum of 3 blood altars up at any given time, and you can release the enemy by pointing at them with your crosshair and pressing the ability button again. And while it may look like the impaled enemy is completely immune to damage when you shoot them, they're actually not, because if you do enough damage to them and then you release them, they will just instantly die. Now the range at which you can charge the enemy to create a blood altar as well as the radius of the healing aura are both affected by power range, the duration of the altar is affected by power duration, and the healing per second is affected by power strength. Garuda's third ability is called Bloodletting, and it's probably the simplest ability that we currently have in the game. Because all it does is it makes Garuda sacrifice 50% of her maximum health and return a portion of the sacrificed health as energy. Now damaging yourself this way does not trigger rage or hunter adrenaline, and you also can't use Bloodletting to kill yourself if that's something you wanted to do, because it will only ever bring you down to 2 health. And the amount of energy you get per each cast is dependent on number 1 your power efficiency and number 2 your maximum health. Now this ability works really well with Garuda's passive, where she deals more damage the lower on health she is, and even enables you to play around with that passive and actually use it, but it also synergizes really well with the Blood Altar, because you can pop 1, 2, even 3 Blood Altars close to one another and then just stand between them and spam Bloodletting for infinite energy. And Garuda's fourth and final ability is called Seeking Talents, where she will send forth a wave of Seeking Talents that will deal damage over time to any enemies they hit and make them more prone to bleeding. Now this ability has a charge up mechanic where you can either just tap it, which will only target enemies around your crosshair, or you can hold it down, which will slowly expand the targeting circle. Now, any enemy hit by the talents will be stunned for a little bit and then marked for 10 seconds. They will also take an okayish amount of damage over time, but that's not that important. What is important is the mark. Because what the mark does is it makes it so that whenever you damage that enemy, there's a 50% chance you will proc slash on them. And that's pretty huge, especially when it comes to the Grenier and most of the corrupted, because slash procs ignore armor. Now the initial damage over time of the ability as well as the percentage based chance that you will proc slash on the marked enemy are both affected by power strength, and the duration of the mark is affected by power duration. Also, charging the ability does not consume additional energy, it will only ever consume 100 or whatever number you're left with after you add power efficiency, and you can move while you're charging it. And finally, I think it's also worth mentioning that while the targeting range or the area of the ability is not affected by power range, it really doesn't have to be, because when you charge this all the way, you will basically just hit everything. And now we come to the conclusion. So what do I actually think about Garuda? Well, I think she's pretty great actually. I wasn't quite sure in the beginning, but the more I play with her, the more I like her. Her kit is just really cool because the abilities work really well when combined together without having forced interactions. And that gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to gameplay. You can just do things your own way, unlike with, let's just say, Siren 2.0, where you would put down mode, throw spores on the mode, pop the spores with Toxic Lash, and then use Miasma. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that that type of gameplay is not fun, because it very much is, but I think I prefer this. I would also highly recommend you give Garuda a shot as a full-on melee Warframe, because all the gap closers, the healing, the defense and the utility works really well for that type of gameplay. So yeah, Garuda is a Warframe that I wasn't quite sure about in the beginning, but I really ended up loving her in the end. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.